Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Michelle Aubin and Linda Lang.
Welcome to the podcast today. This is Michelle Aubin and Linda Lang, and we like to get together and have chats about healing, about intuition, about the unconscious, all kinds of fun topics relating to spirituality, and just whatever comes through our mind. We don't plan it, we just chat with each other and have a great time. So welcome, Linda.
Thanks, Michelle. Always a pleasure to be here and explore these most interesting and spiritual topics.
Yes, we are explorer buddies, and we just like to record these because we go to some great places in our conversations. And today we're going to use our jumping off topic is going to be dreams and dream symbolism and dream guidance and what all of that is about. Linda, what do you think of that?
Dreams are one of my very favorite things. I love dreams. I have these huge epic dreams that I'll write out in my journal, and they're pages and pages, and they're so real and so detailed. And I will actually sit and interpret them.
So do you feel that it is a form of guidance, or do you feel like dreams are a processing mechanism for all the things that go on, or what do you...
They can be both, those kind of like nonsensy dreams can be processing our day. And I think that you actually can develop the sense to know when a dream has a message for you. It typically has a lot of emotion with it, or you just have a knowing that there's something really important about this dream. And a dream state to me is quite fascinating. I remember times having, incredible dreams, and then I'll roll over in bed and the whole dream is gone.
Yes, you change your physical position and you lost it.
But if I roll back, I'm right back in the dream again.
Oh.
It's incredible.
And that's actually one of the techniques that is taught if people want to start practicing what's called lucid dreaming, where you can train yourself to realize in your dream that you are dreaming. I've actually taken courses on this, and what they teach is to start remembering your dreams backwards when you wake up. And over time, you can remember more and more and more, and they will say, keep the physical position you are in when you wake up as a way to recall. And so I think that's interesting that that's true for you.
It is really cool. I've not taken a course on lucid dreaming, and wow, I did it anyways.
Yes, yeah. You're doing it and you're recalling. Now, I also want to tie in here the concept that I've heard shamans talk about, which is the idea that this is reality is as much a dream world as what we call the dream state. And it's interesting when you think of that, because when we're dreaming, that feels real, and this state does not feel like reality. And isn't that an interesting thing?
I'd actually agree with the shamans. I think that I have had experiences in my dream world that I feel more real than day-to-day life. And I mean, I've had dreams that were, I'd call prophetic, and meaning they, foretell something that happens in the future. And it's fascinating. You just know it means something, but it's all in symbolism. So you have to learn your own symbolism. I have dream dictionaries. Sometimes it works okay and sometimes not. Really, the best interpretation comes from within. So it's just so much fun to get these words of wisdom. And I believe they can come from the unconscious mind or the higher self, or even I've had dead relatives come into dreams and offer me guidance. So who's to say that that isn't actually happening?
Do you have an incident you can recall where there was something, guidance or something given to you in a dream that you applied to your life?
My dreams are so long now, it would probably take me 20 minutes to tell you. They're huge. My dreams are just like they're motion picture dreams. It's
Yeah.
most people when they hear, they're just like, "You dreamt that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have all the details and colors and feelings." So there was one time a shorter dream was when my mother-in-law had passed away, and my mother-in-law and I sadly did not have a really good relationship. But years after she died, she came to me in a dream and she offered to help me. And in that dream, I took a step back and she just said, "Oh, you're not ready yet."
It's interesting. You took a step back from her help and from her.
From her, because I was not used to that in my earthly experience, you know. So there was a sense of caution, and this was totally in my sleep. And I woke up and I was like, you know, logically, I'm like, "Oh shoot, she was ready to come back, you know."
Yeah.
But it just wasn't, you know, it just wasn't time. There was a
Yeah.
part of me that still didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
So it was good because it also gave me the message that I have a little bit more work to do on that relationship, even though it wasn't
Yeah.
3D anymore. There's still ties that link us.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's well, there's a lot of messages in that
Yeah, for sure.
dream. Yeah. And in your response to it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll share one. So I think I was 29, and at the time in my life, I was living in a small New England city, not happy, and I was considering moving to a big city, and I was thinking of California. Back then, I was going to go across country, start a new life, and I was going to go to San Francisco. It just seemed, I had been there before. I loved the place. It was so colorful, and the sunlight was everything about it. I was like, I'm going to go to San Francisco. But I did a dream question, and I kind of did that thing where you fall asleep and you say, okay, tell me if this is the right decision. I know what it was. I was considering New York and San Francisco, those two. So I did the dream, show me which one is the right one for me. And so in my dream, I was on a fast train across the country with Madonna all the way to San Francisco. That was my dream. And I woke up and I said, but I want to go to New York. That can't be right. So I went to New York.
I think Madonna lived in New York, doesn't she?
She
I
did, but
think
in
she
my
does.
dream, she was taking me on the train, zoom, all the way to San Francisco. So you would think that was the message for me, but I woke up and I said, that can't be right. I want to go to New York. So I went to New York because it was so immediate. I was like, no. And
So it's interesting that it wasn't actually the experience that happened in the dream, but the dream gave you such clarity of what was the best decision for you.
it did. I was like, I wasn't even fully awake. I had the dream and I woke up and I was like, wait, that's not right. So I listened to my reaction and not the literal dream.
That's a really good point as well, because it really does matter how we interpret it, right? And our reaction is kind of unconscious.
Yeah.
So I think that's fabulous.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was funny. Yeah. And I lived in New York for a decade. So there you go. It worked out.
Did you run into Madonna there?
I did not run into Madonna there, but I dream of lots of famous people all the time. I've had dreams with Oprah in them. I've had dreams with all kinds of people in them, and I don't know if that's. I haven't like really figured out what like the famous people issue is, other than maybe just getting my attention or role modeling or something. I don't know. Success. Symbols or something. Do you dream of famous people?
Do I dream of famous people? Not overly, I would say. And even actually familiar people aren't necessarily in my dreams very often. It's actually really interesting. I dream a lot about strangers. Occasionally there will be someone I know or a famous person gives me a little bit of guidance or some kind of experience. I do think it's really fascinating. So I think when I do that, I probably would go inwards and ask myself what that person represents to me
Yeah.
and trying to determine that. Yeah, its dreams are great fun, aren't they?
They are. They are. I want to sort of weave in this topic too that I don't have the name of it off the tip of my tongue, but there's a book I read years ago that talks about how you can use dream symbolism as a way to get in tune with your body. And this woman, I just wish I had the book in front of me, she had done actual scientific research about people's dreams, people who were in the hospital and throughout their recovery, and how their dreams changed. And she did this, she compiled all the information and found some similarities, which is the fascinating thing. So there's an individuality to our dreams, but she found these like overlapping themes with people that were having health issues, physical health issues. So one example is sort of like the idea of a house is the body. And I wouldn't say this is necessarily true for everyone, but this is sort of what she found is common. And for instance, the stairwell represents the spine. So if you envision yourself in a dream going up a stairwell, that might have something to do with spine issues. Or a house that's being repaired means you're on the road to recovery. A house that has repair issues might mean you need to pay attention to some things that are not going well. So there were a lot of interesting themes that I had never really heard anyone who studied dreams so methodically, but also this idea of relating it to the physical body too.
I don't see why you couldn't get messages about your physical body
Yeah,
through dreams.
yeah. Since I read that book, I definitely sort of have that lens sometimes. Like for instance, if you're clearing up, the idea of like clearing up toxic waste means you're detoxing, right? That's like a positive thing. Or there's like repairing, it's just interesting. It's fun. Yeah, yeah,
I've often looked at the basement as the unconscious mind, the main floor as the conscious mind, and the upstairs as the higher self.
yeah,
And that has proven to be fairly accurate for me in interpretation. But again, symbols can be very personal, right?
yes, yeah.
Very personal.
I've done that too. I sort of take the levels and sort of transitioning to different, going up or going down a stairwell might mean consciousness, going to different places in our consciousness. Yeah, when I have those type of things, that's what I think of too.
One of the things that I'm really, really good at is interpreting dreams for people. And I'd met this woman at at one of those weekend workshops.
Like a training.
And she told me her dream, and she dreamt about her grandfather all the time, who was in the basement. And there was problems in the basement with the grandfather. He wasn't very happy, and his grandfather had passed. a number of years ago. And she said, it's a reoccurring dream. And so I just suggested to her that maybe she has some unfinished business with her grandfather in her unconscious. And she just like broke into tears right away. So yeah, it can definitely mean that as well. The dark, dingy basement,
yes.
that's
what's in there.
Got bones in it. I think it was bones. I don't remember her dream really well, but it's just like whatever I said just was on target for whatever she needed to hear.
Isn't it interesting that sometimes it's easier to know what someone else's dream symbolism is, what it might mean, than our own? Like I've had that too with friends who tell me their dream and they're mystified by it, and I go, well, maybe it's this or this, and they go, yeah. And it just seems obvious when when you're the one sort of explaining someone else's, and yet I can have a dream and go, whoa, what was that? When we're neutral, maybe when we're neutral, we can see the patterns a little bit.
It's really interesting too. I've run a journey circle of groups that meet sometimes for, a year. I think the longest one I had was we met for 2.5 years, and we had so much fun doing shamanic journeys. And at one point, we were also incorporating our dreams. And during that time, we would have people in the circle that would have similar dreams. Or even there was one girl who had the beginning of a dream and another girl who had the finish of the dream.
Wow.
It was just really interesting how we can connect. We can really connect on an unconscious level.
So you, with this journey circle, we're doing shamanic journeying with people, which is can you describe
much like
what
dream work?
it is, isn't it?
Very much.
Is it tying into the idea of astral travel or going to other dimensions, would you say?
Well, you could say that, but that's not really my interpretation. I like to think that we have access to everything within ourselves, and we can access, the lower worlds, the middle worlds, or the upper worlds, which I guess would technically be different dimensions. But I don't think of it that way. It's just, for me, I think of it as accessing the wisdom that we need in the moment, very much like a dream. So it's interpreted, and we can actually make shifts in our dream that can help shift our outer reality. It is a really fascinating way to explore, and you can do incredible healing because we're working with the unconscious mind and getting them on board with the symbolism that we're given from the unconscious mind. We can learn so much about ourselves and the world around us that we interact with all the time. It's just so much fun.
So there's the idea that when we sleep, I've read this idea, that we do experience things, events in our dream as what's called astral travel, that we leave our bodies, and what we're seeing in a dream is actually taking place in the astral dimension or other dimensions that we may travel to. For instance, if you're flying, you may go to a different dimension. You may find these are things I've read. I'm open to lots of ideas about what it is. I don't necessarily have a kind of everything formulated in my mind, but does that tie in with your idea of what happens when we dream?
I don't usually think of it that way, but you know what? I do think that happens sometimes. I know there are times when I like jump back into my body, like not consciously, but I like jump waking up, or my husband will do that. And so it really is like you're out of body and come back. It's it's such a big universe out there. And, you know, we have our lovely little cord that connects us. Why not go explore? I actually have had experiences in shamanic journeying. Most of the time I go inward, but I have had experiences where I had a conscious awareness of going out of my crown
Out of your
and then,
crown.
having a journey experience, having gone out my crown. And it's a really tactile, tangible experience. So, you know, anything is possible, really.
Well, I can recall since childhood having what I have come to believe was sort of spontaneous out of body experiences while in that stage between waking and sleeping. And part of that was vibrations, which at the time I didn't know what it was, so it would scare me and I would wake up. But since I've done reading on the topic, it seems that that is what happens when people intentionally aim to do an out of body experience for whatever purpose they're doing it, that there is sort of this like vibration they feel. So I've never done that intentionally, but like there have been times when I've been kind of in that transition period between waking and sleeping and feeling that. And one time I was an adult and I actually felt like there was an earthquake, but there wasn't. So it was just kind of catching that awareness. So that fits in with the idea of astral travel. It fits in with
That's a
the
lot
idea.
of vibration if you think
Yeah,
there's an earthquake.
it felt like the bed was shaking, but I woke up and I was like, oh, that, and nobody else experienced anything. So it was just sort of that physical feeling of vibration. I actually don't know if it was a physical vibration or just sort of a, you know, astral body vibration that registered as a physical. I don't really know a lot about it other than kind of it fits in with some other things I've read other people have experienced.
Say I've had that sense of vibration when I journeyed and went out of my body. And every time I've done that since, like, I don't do that all the time. It just happens. But it's more like I turn into a mist,
Oh, what?
a mist. So I become like gaseous and just float out of my body.
And you don't feel the vibration.
No, I don't feel the
No.
vibration, which is
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah. When you exit through your crown, are you directing, is there an intention to do that, or does it just happen when you're doing another kind of journey and you just find yourself leaving through your crown?
It just happens. And I remember the first time that it happened, it kind of blew me away because it was like such a unique experience. It was like, wow, this is amazing.
Did you
Consciously intending.
see things? Well, what was amazing about it? Were you,
Well, yes, I met with Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom. I have it written down, but I don't remember at this point the whole journey because I've done so many of them. But it was just like it had a lot of body sense, even though my body was back there. And I could see, even though my eyes were back there. And I could hear. It's just really interesting to associate our senses only with the body.
right. Now you met with Thoth. That's interesting. Did you know that you wanted to do that, or did that just happen spontaneously?
Well, he's just like one of my favorite people ever, right? I asked him about his name one time because I travel with him quite a bit. I have the deepest respect. And he shows up for me as this handsome fellow with like black curly hair and these beautiful blue eyes that sparkle like universes. He's not a baboon or an ibis head, or, he's a tangible person. He's got a crazy sense of humor.
Was he a mist when you saw him, or?
He's never a mist. He's always this really handsome fellow.
Yeah,
And he's usually dressed in black.
really.
Yeah, sometimes with a cape.
And that's an interesting thing. So you see him when you journey? Do you see him other times, like when you do maybe meditations, or is it
Uh,
like a thing about journeying,
on
or?
occasion, absolutely, I see him. He's taken me on some incredible experiences in that kind of bardo state between awake and asleep, where he's shown me different portals within the body that can take you to different dimensions, and they're just like phenomenal. He'll take me and give me information, and then when I come back, I'm like, I'm not asleep and I can't sleep because I'm too excited. He's explained the Egyptian death ritual of weighing the heart against a feather, and in a way that it's not just words, like he'll show me an image, and there's so much information that, to me, that's like a download, that, I have the understanding, I have the image, I have the awareness, and it just, blows my mind, really. It's just incredible.
Well, this ties in so well with our theme today about dreaming, because dreaming can be so many things. It can be the symbolism, it can be the messages from the unconscious or from the body, but also you're talking about getting guidance and training and really profound knowledge from the dream state. If we call it the dream state, you called it
Yeah.
the bardo, but that is sort of another place when you're dreaming that you're accessing.
Yeah, I do think the veil is a little bit thinner in that place. I have a big
Well,
smile on my face because I just, thoroughly enjoyed those kind of experiences that kind of, they don't make logical sense. And yet it connects us to the unseen world. And there's so much more to explore than what we can just touch with our fingers.
and what I'm hearing too in your story is not only did you see Thoth, but you had an experience of feeling, which was as much a part of the experience, of sort of a enjoyable feeling safe, feeling joyous, feeling protected, which is maybe even more information than the visual.
Yes. Yes, really. And it's because you have that body sense, it becomes a truth for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for those great stories. And we're just about ready to wrap up. So this is a great place to maybe end this segment. And did you want to share any parting words about this?
There's many more things we can talk about regarding dreams, absolutely. So we might just check this topic out again sometime in the
Sure.
future.
As well as the topic of guides and helpers. I mean, that's a whole other maybe long topic as well. So
Absolutely.
thank you everyone for listening in, and we will join you next time, and have a great day.
Bye for now.